Good morning and welcome to the second lab of Innovative Actions Call 4. We will be starting in a couple of minutes, but before that, I would like to let you know that we have a Slido throughout the session. So if you can scan the QR code that just appeared with your phone or go to slido.com to use your laptop and enter through hashtag EULab2, then you can see that there are already 2 questions there, so have a look at them. Grab yourself a cup of coffee and we will be starting in a couple of minutes. It's 10:30 Brussels time, and I wish you all good morning and a very well welcome to our second thematic lab of the new season of Innovative Action Call for Proposals. So if you've missed our first thematic lab, don't worry, because there's a recording available on our website and on our YouTube channel, so go ahead and view it after this thematic lab. My name is Sofia Juravin. I work for the EY Permanent Secretariat, and I will be your host for today. Before I'll walk you through our agenda for today, I want to let you know that throughout the session we will be using Slido for polls, but also for Q&A. So in a moment there's a QR code that just appeared, so please, if you can scan it or go to slido.com on your laptop and enter #EUY-Lab2, not one but two. There are two questions that we've prepared for you, so go ahead and answer them. And so throughout the session we will also have two Q&As. It will also be done through Slido. Please, before you ask your question, check whether this question was already asked. If yes, you can put a thumbs up. My colleague Isabella is monitoring the Q&A, so she'll make sure that the right question pops up in the right moment. So while you're answering these Slido questions, I will walk you through today's agenda. The topic of today's lab is in intervention logic. So we will be covering today the principle of intervention logic. Also, so what's the definition of the intervention logic? What are the objectives? What are the expected results and the outputs? We will also talk about what does EUY mean under project durability. These sessions are going to be followed by two Q&As. And at the very end, we will be visited by a very special guest, so please do not disconnect to guess who this special guest is. Before we will start our session, let's have a look at your Slido responses. So our first question was, which country are you joining us from? And I already see that there's quite a lot of interest coming from Italy, followed closely by Germany, Belgium, France and Portugal. But there are other countries that pop out like Romania, Greece, Slovenia, Portugal, Spain. Welcome to all of you. The next question was, did you join our first thematic lab? And I see 61% of you have already viewed us, so thank you very much for joining us the first time. For those that missed, don't worry, there is a recording available on our website and YouTube channel. And this is perfect for the people that have missed our first thematic lab to do like a little recap of what exactly were we talking about. So, if you've missed the kickoff event on the 25th of February and our first thematic lab, here's this quick recap for you. So what is Call 4? Well, in Call 4 you can test bold and creative urban solutions in real local context. We've lowered the threshold for cities to apply to 25,000 of inhabitants, and we have 6 thematic topics under EU Agenda for Cities for this fourth call. So last week we've discussed about the eligibility criteria, what do we understand under the city-led approach, how to create a good partnership, and how to understand what exactly we mean by local innovation. And again, if you missed the first lab, a recording is available on our website. For those who are joining us now, so the good students hopefully have already confirmed their eligibility, identified a local challenge, developed a project idea that fits specific requirements of Call 4, and probably already even identified a potential partnership that can work well together. What is the next step? Well, the next step is to understand and build a coherent intervention logic. This is what we're going to dive into today. So I would like to invite to the stage my colleague Kathleen that will talk more about defining objectives and expected results.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second lab. So my name is Catherine McCarron, as Sophia just mentioned, and I will be presenting you what do we mean by the intervention logic. So before we start, I think it's quite important to understand that the intervention logic is quite key for us to understand where your project is going to go. So when you're preparing your project, developing your idea, you really need to take time to think about how you're going to structure your intervention logic. Basically, it's this intervention logic is the story of your project, and it will allow you to explain how your project will create change in your local area. It's going to show why the project is needed, what are the problem it addresses, and what the project ultimately aims to achieve. We like to call it really the backbone of your project. If you maybe look at the bottom of the slide, you have this little graph that we keep going back to, which talks about the initial situation, and we talked a lot about the initial situation in the previous lab, where we want to understand what's your local challenge, what's your context, what is the way your city operates currently. And then you'll have your innovative action, which will be your project. And then it will ultimately lead to change in the local situation. And this basically is the story of your project. You have a beginning, a middle, and then the end. So this take time to kind of think about what is your intervention logic and structure it properly. But what does it mean? What is it technically inside? What's in this intervention logic? Let's have a look. Basically, you will have to define an overall objective. This overall objective is your strategic aim, the strategic goal of your project that you want to achieve by the end of the implementation. Besides this overall objective, you'll have three specific objectives. These are more concrete goals, more operational, that support the achievement of your overall objective. Something that is new in the framework of this call is that each specific objective will have to be translated in a work package. But my colleagues will discuss this a bit more in detail in the next lab next week. Same place, same time. So you'll have three specific objectives, and associated with these three specific objectives, you'll have expected results. These expected results are here to reflect the desired change in your local situation. They have to be specific and measurable. We'll come back to this also in a minute. So if we kind of put everything into perspective, it would look like this. You would have your overall objective, your strategic goal at the end of the project on top, that is supported by the specific objective, which we mentioned were more operational, more concrete goals. And these will then ultimately lead to expected results. And you will have to define and formulate each of those elements for your intervention logic in terms of how you describe your project. So I was saying at the start that your intervention logic is a bit like the story of your project. And the story of your project would go a bit like, in the area of intervention, the local challenge we want to address is this. With this project, we want to change this. And to achieve the change, we need to have three goals, let's say. And these would be how, if you use this kind of sentences, this is how your intervention logic can then be slowly built. If we take an example to make it a bit more concrete. Let's say in your local area you have a lack of green spaces and a lack of free sports amenities in your city. So basically what you want to do if you want to tackle this challenge is to create more green spaces and to create more sports amenity in your city. So that would be more like your overall objective. And then to achieve this bigger goal, you would need to decline it into more specific, more operational objectives. And these would be, well, first, maybe to create a new public park and maybe to connect the existing parks with some green corridors that can be used for running. And lastly, maybe provide some free sports activities for different target groups. So this would be a bit how your intervention logic would be. You would have your big goal, and then your smaller, more operational specific objectives. So to check a bit if you have understood what we mean by what is an operational objective, what is a specific objective, and what are expected results, we have planned a little exercise, and you can start using Slido. As I said, the starting point is always going to be the local challenge. So we proposed like a fake local challenge, and I'll invite you to read it before answering the Slido questions. So the starting point of this project would be that in this city, in this fake city, we have a problem of food insecurity and poverty, particularly among children. In this city, we have 20,500 people that are at risk of poverty or social exclusion, and 28% of them being children, which this city says is above the national average. They've done a recent study in the city that shows that 23% of school children attend school without breakfast, affecting their health and ultimately their development and learning outcomes. We also know that in this area, the city relies heavily on imported food for school meals, increasing cost but also emissions. Rising food and energy prices have pushed the cost of school meals from €6 in 2019 to €10 in 2024, threatening affordable meals programs. And at the same time, despite many brownfields, which 7% are suitable for urban agriculture, local food production is very limited. So this is quite a big text. So we've highlighted the key ideas. So we talk about food insecurity, poverty. We talk about children attending schools without breakfast, the cost of school meals that have increased between 2019 and 2024. And at the end, we also understand that local food production is limited. So now we have given you some elements, which again we'll have a look at, and among those, basically we want to build the intervention logic. So we want to be able to find with those elements which one is the overall objective, which are the specific objective, which as we said are more operational, and what are the expected results. Remember, there is one overall objective, 3 specific objectives, and 3 expected results. So you have them on your phone, on your Slido. I can read them quickly also. So we talk about increase local production of fresh food. Is that an objective or is that an expected result? And if it's an objective, is it more like the overall objective or more an operational objective? We also have reduced reliance on imported food and lower cost of meals in school canteens. Is that a result or is that an objective? Maybe I can put back the bigger slide with all the answers, like not the answers, all the definitions of what is an overall objective. As we said, your big main goal, the strategic aim of the project. And then we have 3 specific objectives that are more concrete, that are here to support the achievement of your overall objective. And then these are declined under 3 expected results. So I can see that people are voting on Slido. I'll give you a bit more time to have a look and tell us what you think. It doesn't matter if you have the exact answer. We're really here to learn and trying to give you an example, a concrete example of what it could mean, and hopefully give you tips on how you can define your own objective for your own project. And we'll see this in a minute. So I can see that you're still voting. Maybe I'll start slowly giving you the answers. As I said, this is not like we're not here to test your knowledge. It's really here to help you understand what is expected. So these are the answers. So if I start by number 4, which is to ensure food security for children by supporting sustainable urban agriculture and qualitative local food distribution in schools. We can see that this is the broader, this is the larger goal that we have. We also have some other elements that were formulated as objective, like to produce fruits and vegetables on an urban farm, to develop a sustainable and fair food distribution system in schools, and to provide affordable meals. These are all objective, but we can see that they're more concrete, more specific, whereas the one that is a bit broader and more strategic is definitely number 4, to ensure food security for children. So this would be our overall objective, and the 3 others that I mentioned would be your specific objectives. And then the 3 other answers are definitely formulated as results. So we talk about an increased local production of fresh food. We talk about reduced reliance on imported goods and lower cost of meals in school canteens. And we also talk about improved access to food for school children. So these are more formulated as results. And then we can, of course, see connection between all these elements. So if we go back to this big drawing, it would look like this. We have a concrete specific objective, which is to produce food on a municipal farm. So ultimately, the outcome, the results of this would be, well, of course, more local food produced. So we would have a connection between the 3rd element and the 1st one. Similarly, for the 2nd specific objective, if one of our ideas is to develop a sustainable and fair food distribution system for school canteen, the outcome would be a reduced reliance on imported food and lower cost of meals in school canteens. Because at the start, one of the elements that was mentioned was that inflation has pushed the cost of school meals for the city quite high recently. So we want a specific objective that is going to tackle this, and the result is ultimately linked to the initial challenge that we want to face. For the last one, to provide affordable meals for school children and also education programs, well, ultimately our expected result is to have an improved access of food to school children and an increased awareness about healthy eating. So these would be that would be the answer to the Slido question that we proposed. You can see that some elements are also underlined. So to ensure, to produce, to develop, to provide for the objectives, where we have action verbs that are starting the objectives. And for the expected result, you always have adjectives or that imply a change, so an increase, a reduced, or improved. So these are really important grammatical clues that maybe were helping you when you were answering the Slido, but that you need to keep in mind when you're building your own intervention logic. So that would be one of the tips we would give you when you're working on your own. Some other tips that we would suggest. Again, the first one, ensure logic between all your elements, a logic between your local challenge, your solution, your objective, your results. Everything has to be coherent. It is your story, so you need to make sure it matches. When you're formulating your objectives, make sure they're not too broad, they're not too long, that they're very specific. Try not to duplicate the overall objective when you're formulating your specific objective. They have to be more concrete and they're supporting the overall objective, but they're not the same. And yeah, keep in mind that for this specific call, each specific objective will ultimately lead to a work package. So that's why when we say they have to be operational, because ultimately it's going to be your objective of your work packages. Again, you'll have more information on this next week. For your results, make sure that they are attributable to a specific objective and make sure that they're realistic. We want to be able to see the change that you are proposing by the end of implementation. They need to be realistic, they need to be specific, and they need to be measurable. And for this last element, the measurability, we will be working with indicators to be able to, first monitor the project during implementation, but also understand at the end what the project has achieved. So there will be two types of indicators that you will have to define as part of your intervention logic. There will be output indicators and there will be result indicators. So my colleague Nico, who will present just after me, will explain a bit more what are outputs, but you need to know that you will have to define output indicators for those, and they will be focusing on measuring what the project ultimately delivers. For your results indicators, they will be more trying to measure the change produced by the project. In your application form, you will see that there is a drop-down list and you can select indicators that have been proposed by the European Commission. But if you realize that none of them match, or that you think you can come up with better, more specific indicators, you can of course add your own and define your own indicator. I think it's important to still use some indicators that are proposed by the Commission, because for us it's also important to be able to see the results of the initiative of all the projects together. So it's that we can basically aggregate the results of different projects. And it's also something that is looked upon favorably. So we would recommend that you select some predefined indicators. So for each expected result, so these blue boxes at the bottom of our intervention logic, you will have to come up with some result indicators from 1 to 3, a maximum of 3 indicators. And we need to make sure that they are very relevant, so that there is a clear link with your expected result, between your indicator and your expected result, because ultimately you want to be able to prove what you said you would do in your intervention logic. Avoid having too many indicators, but again, the system will prevent you for proposing more than 3, so somehow you're kind of safe. And focus on meaningful indicators that you can actually measure by the end of the project. So make sure you're either using data that you're able to collect or building indicators on data set you already own. Try not to promise the world. It's better to have fewer indicators, more concrete, but that you will actually be able to show a difference at the end of your project. And yes, the last bullet point, very important, to ensure coherence between your expected result, which are more formulated as, a sentence. It will basically be like a narrative, a sentence of what you want to improve, and your result indicator, which are going to be in a very short description, which you can see at the bottom of the slide. So this is a screenshot of the system that you will have to fill in when you will submit your proposal. You'll have first this drop-down menu with all the indicators that you can choose from. You can also select others, and then you have to come up with your description of your indicator, the unit, the baseline, which is the starting point of at the beginning of your project, and your target value, so how much you want to deliver at the end. Maybe one point on baselines, it's really important to avoid having baseline at 0. So for some indicators, you can have a baseline because it's something that doesn't exist. But for example, let's say you wanted to measure the level of participation in your city, then the baseline should be used based on previous data of other projects you have done in the past in the city, so that you're able to compare what your project has brought, which is different from the current way of working in the city. But this maybe is a bit too detailed, and you can read more in some of the guidance we're putting on the call page. So let's pretend now we have built a really good intervention logic. So your project is able to say, okay, this is my strategic, my overall objective, my strategic goal. I've defined my 3 specific objectives. I've defined my 3 expected results, my indicators, everything is clear. I would really recommend that you ask a friend or a colleague to help you check your proposal, someone who doesn't know anything about what you're trying to do, and that they will try and ask and assess your proposal against the selection criteria that you can find in the call for guidance. They're also here on the screen. The first one, which is about your objectives. So are they clear, measurable, and achievable within the project time frame? This is something we keep repeating. Your project has to be delivered within 2 years. So make sure that your goals are at the right scale, that they're not too ambitious, not too narrow, of course, that you can actually deliver them in 2 years. And the second question is, to what extent the expected results and output logically derive from the objective and activities. We haven't talked about output. Nicola will do it in a minute. But yeah, as I said, your story has to be coherent. We need to see the links between all your elements. And how realistic, specific, and measurable are they? So that will be it for me. And now I think we'll take some questions.
All right, thank you, Kathleen, for your presentation.
No problem.
At the moment, we do not have any questions, so maybe I will remind you that there is a Slido active for our Q&As, and you can go ahead to slido.com using hashtag EOYLab2 on your laptop. I guess the intervention logic topic is quite heavy, so
it is a big topic.
It's a big topic. I think participants are kind of like taking some time to really comprehend this big topic. So at the moment we don't have any questions.
That's fine. We can of course answer questions during one-to-one, or we can take questions during the upcoming Q&As.
Perhaps I can also say that this lab is going to be also recorded, so all our thematic labs are recorded, and the recording is available as soon as our IT is managing all the little details. So as soon as they're ready, they give us the link and we publish it on our website, so everything is available on the website and also on our YouTube channel. Oh, actually, we have one question that just popped out, so thank you so much, Hilaria. Is it maximum 3 indicators per result?
Yes, there is a maximum of 3 indicators. It's also in a way to encourage you to select not many indicators, but really good ones. So indicators that are at the right scale, that they're not too ambitious. Like if, for example, if we take the example that we were using about food and school canteens, one of the challenge that was mentioned at the start, I mean, it was more to explain a bit the context, was that it's a city that has inequalities and poverty. If one of your indicators is about reducing poverty, for us, that would be too broad. It's very unlikely that with one project of 2 million euros, you're able to solve the problem of poverty. So that would be too broad for us. We would need something that is more narrow, more really focused on your project. So that's why also we limit it to 3 indicators, so that you're not also lost, but also think that we have 3 specific objectives. So ultimately you can define up to 9 indicators, which is already a lot, and we would not recommend to have more indicators. It's better to have fewer, but really good and strong indicators.
Thank you, Kathleen, for this answer.
No problem.
So maybe more questions? Yes, there's one from Ilse. Is it possible to have also the presentation and from the previous seminars? They're very useful. We will see, and we can publish them online, yes.
The first one is actually the PowerPoint is online.
The PowerPoint is online. Okay, thank you. So any more questions about the intervention logic? Going once? Going twice? Yes, there's one from... No. Okay. Well,
that's fine.
It's okay. Thank you very much.
No problem.
And,
thank you, Sophia.
Yeah, hope to see you again. I would like to now go to the second part of our presentation, and I would like to invite to the stage my colleague Nicolas.
Good morning, everyone. So today we are walking through the intervention logic. And an important step of this journey is bringing us to what we call outputs. And you will see in the next minute that they have quite an important role in every EY project. So far, Kathleen has presented you three key components of the intervention logic: the overall objective, the specific objective, and the results. But as you can see on the screen, there is a gap, one piece of the story which is missing here. So to meet the overall project objective and the overall ambition of your project, and to reach the expected result, you will need operational elements. This will be covered by your activities and the work plan you will be establishing. And these activities and your work plan will lead to the delivery of outputs, and the outputs will be triggering the change expected and what you have described under the category expected result. So today we will be focusing on the outputs, and the part linked to the activities, to the work plan, will be subject to further explanation next week in our next lab. So let's focus now on the outputs. So what is an output? So in few words, this is the main product, the end product resulting from the implementation of your project activities. An output is directly contributing to the achievement of your project objectives, and it's also an essential tool that enables the project to deliver the expected results, the desired change in your local context. So please have in mind that an output should be at the same time realistic, so you can be in the position of delivering it during the project implementation phase, so within 2 years. It should be specific, concrete, so we should be in the position of understanding the exact nature of an output, what is it concretely, and it should be also measurable, so you can be somewhere in the position of measuring the progress and the performance of your project towards the achievement of an output. So an output at first sight might sound a bit, let's say, cryptic or a bit an abstract notion. So I will give you a few examples to illustrate what could be an output. In our eyes, there is a broad spectrum of outputs, but for instance, it could be a digital, technical output. So something that, like an app, a software, a digital service you could produce. Otherwise, an output could be, for instance, what we call a knowledge output. So your product is building, collecting information and delivering information for your decision makers to impact on the local policy making. So that's also a type of output we could support and co-finance in our initiative. Another type of output could be simply a new service you are producing in your local territory. Finally, we could also give as an example the case of an output which can be what we call a physical output. It means that you have a physical asset, but you are delivering it together with a service you are producing and which will be impacting your local territory. So that's a few examples just to illustrate what could be an output and what could be delivered by your project. So far, maybe this seems a bit abstract, but if you look at this slide, that's what was presented a few minutes ago by Kathleen, and you can see a new layer appearing in this whole graph. So an output is directly linked to your specific objective and also to your overall objective. So they are bringing concrete answers to the objectives you have set at the beginning of your project. But an output is also a driver of change. So an output is leading to the expected result you have defined at the beginning of your project. So you can see an output is really at the core of your project, and it's quite important to be precise and to define them properly at the beginning of your project. Everything might sound a bit theoretical so far, so I invite you now to go on Slido, because we have set up an exercise just to illustrate a bit more this notion. So I invite you to grab your phone or to go on your browser and to open the Slido page, and you will see an exercise for you. You will have in front of you 3 questions, and you will have to identify the best output for the proposed specific objectives. What we have done here, so you can see on the screen, so that's exactly the same specific objectives presented by Kathleen a few minutes ago. And we are using the same project, so you are quite familiar already with the topic and what is at stake. And I will give you some time to choose what will be, according to you, the best output for each specific objective. So you have 3 questions for each of the specific objectives you can see on your screen. So we'll give you some time to read them carefully, to think about what could be the best match between the specific objective and the output. So you have the answers appearing on Slido. So when you are done with the first question, you can move to the next one. Each time we are referring to the specific objective, and then you have to identify what would be the best output. There might be one answer or several answers, so you can take some time to reflect about it. And I can slowly but surely start to move to the answers. I give you a bit of time now just to finalize maybe for the third question, covering the third specific objective. Is everything clear? Are you ready to see the answers? I hear nothing, so let's move to the answers. So you can see here for the first question, the correct answer was the option 1, municipal farm. So here for this first specific objective, to produce fruits and vegetables on a municipal urban farm, the best output to deliver or to answer to this specific objective was a municipal farm on a rehabilitated land. If you look at the second answer here, what you could grasp, it's more a result, something that the project is delivering. So the second answer was not the correct one because you are here measuring a change and it's linked to the result of your project. When it comes to the third option, here it could be an output in theory because of the nature of the white paper. So it's something quite important, main product developed by your project. But if you look at the wording used and what is considered as a specific objective, you can see it's not directly matching, it's not directly connected, the topic in place. So please be careful when you are drafting your proposal to ensure the consistency between your specific objective and the outputs you are drafting. Let's move to the second question. Here, for this case, there were two correct answers. So the answer 1 and the answer 3, because both of them are directly contributing to the specific objective and they are producing a clear link. You can see the clear link between the objective and what they are addressing, what they are delivering. So you can expect from them a clear impact stemming from the activities and from this output, and they will lead to the expected result. If you look at the option 2, it was not an output because when you read and look at it, an analysis of the food distribution system, in this case, it's more the starting point of a project activity. So it's useful. We are not questioning the validity of this element, but it's not an end product of your project. It's not having an impact on your territory. So that's only one piece of the global picture. So an output, it's really an end product, which would be somehow impacting, delivering a change in your area. When it comes to the fourth option, let's say we can agree there is an untapped potential, but I'm not sure it's the best match for answering the specific objective of this project. Then comes the third case, and here there were also two correct answers. So the scheme and the educational program are supporting the completion of the specific objective. If you read at what we are expecting in this specific objective to provide affordable school meals combined with education on food and healthy eating in schools, that's somewhat two major mature products stemming from the project activities and are directly supporting the completion of this specific objective. So these are the two correct outputs in this case. If you look at the third option available, here the survey on the food habits is not as such an end product, but it's more an intermediary step, a piece of the puzzle, but it's not something mega important which will have a direct impact in your territory. So in that sense, we cannot consider it as an output. So that was a first exercise for you to get familiar with this new notion for you. And I hope you start to grasp step by step what is the nature or the essence of an output. In your application form, you will have to fill in this kind of information. So there are 5 specific fields to define your output. So you will have to somehow provide information and to tell us, okay, to define first the title of your output. Here you will have to give us a precise, a concise denomination of your output. So please go to the point in this specific field. Then you will have to establish a target value to quantify the output you will be delivering. Then you will have to estimate the delivery date to estimate when your output would be ready and to be ready to be in use in your program, in your local area. Then you will have to choose an indicator to select it for you to be in the position of monitoring the output and to monitoring the performance of your project. So you are setting up some targets at the beginning and should be in the position of monitoring to see your progress step by step during the project implementation. Last but not least, you have to provide us with a description of the output. So you will have some space to describe the exact nature and all the dimension of your output. So it's quite important to be precise and to explain us what are the different dimensions covered by your output. So that's how you will be defining an output in your application form. Like the result indicators, outputs are also measured by the indicators. So as explained by Kathleen, we are trying to measure and monitor the progress, delivery of the different products, services you will be delivering during the project lifetime. So in the case of the output, you will have to select one indicator per output, and you will have some detailed information in the application package which is available on our website. But in the term of reference and in associated annex, you will have a detailed explanation of the predefined indicators available in the framework of this call. If you are not fully satisfied, fully happy with the current matrix of indicators proposed in the framework of these calls, you are free to develop your own indicators. But please keep in mind that your outputs and your indicator should be somewhat realistic, so something that you should be somewhat in the position of reach by the end of the project implementation. And you should be clear, precise in what you would like to achieve, what you would like to measure. You have to be concrete, tangible in what you will be describing, and be sure that you should be in the position of measuring the progress of your project towards the delivery of your output. So it's quite important to keep in mind all these dimensions, because an output is a key element which will be subject to evaluation in the framework of this call. So I propose you to illustrate a bit this dimension via a new exercise. So I invite you to move again on Slido, and you will see on this page 3 new questions. These questions are here to help you to somehow to put yourself in the shoes of an assessor, an evaluator, and we will ask you to evaluate the quality of the 3 outputs you can see on the screen. So for each of them, you will have several answers available, and you will have to see and to assess the quality of the output. Is there anything you would like to improve, or you think it's satisfactory what is in front of you? So I invite you to go step by step. You have 3 outputs on your screen, so 3 questions, and take the time to read carefully the denomination of the output, the selected indicator. Is the target value making sense according to you, or you should see some room for improvement? So I give you some time to go through the 3 questions, and the 3 questions, each one is covering the outputs available for this exercise. So how would you assess the first output called more sustainable farming? Does it make sense to you, or you would see something to improve? The same applies for the free school meal scheme. Are you satisfied with the current approach, or you see something to be considered? Then there is a third output, a third question linked to this output. What do you think about the environmental impact assessment of the municipal farm? Is it fine what is described so far, or you see something to discuss? So I let you think about this, and I let you answer. I will give you a couple of seconds to answer, and then I will move to the answers on my slides. So let's start with the first output, and I will give you what should be in our eyes the best answer. So for the first output, more sustainable farming. Here, let's say it's not the best example of an output you can find. So first of all, the title is quite vague. It's quite unclear what is the exact nature of the product you are delivering. What does it mean, more sustainable farming? It's quite abstract in the end. So the title is not very focused, it's quite vague. It's not very clear to what it refers to. So here it's a first deficiency you can observe here for this first output. Then, on top of this, there is the target value 3, which is a bit unclear to us because you can see with the indicator selected that the project is aiming to deliver a new product, a new service. But what is 3 referring to? We don't really get the link between this selected indicator, this target value, and the exact nature of the output. So let's say it's not very consistent, not very clear what the product is aiming to deliver. So the correct answer was the third one. So the deficiency observed here, it's a vague title and an unclear target value. Let's move to the second example. So we have the free school meal scheme. And here it's a bit, it's a matter of perspective because you can see there were 2 correct answers. If you want to capture the persons directly benefiting from the scheme, the way the output is described, it's all right. It's totally fine because you have a correct indicator selected and you are measuring the number of persons and the target value defined seems plausible. It's realistic to reach 500 people. But in case you want to capture the scheme itself as a product, then you should consider another type of indicator, for instance, new products and services created, to capture this specific nature of the output. So a scheme, it's a kind of new product service created, so you could have a different approach. So in fact, the answer 1 and the answer 3 were the correct ones. Here it's, as I said, it's a matter of perspective. If you feel more comfortable or if you think your product is addressing directly, let's say, end users, you would like to capture this specific dimension, the current indicator available on your screen is fine. If you want to put the emphasis on the product scheme itself, then you should go through the different predefined indicators and pick up, for instance, new products and services, which is better matching the nature of this output. So it's a matter of perspective and what you would like to underline. Let's move to the third output present in this exercise. And in the case of the project we have presented, an environmental impact assessment of the municipal farm, it's not at the very end a major product of your project. It's more a step towards delivery of the municipal farm, which was one of the main outputs we described a few minutes ago. So an environmental impact assessment, in this case, is not an output, it's more an intermediary product. It doesn't have indirect impact, it doesn't trigger a change in your territory, so we cannot consider it as an output. So here, it cannot be considered as an output, so you should not promote this kind of products for your activities as an output. It's more an intermediary step, a deliverable. And you will learn a bit more about the deliverable in our next lab next week, when we'll be detailing more what is a work plan and what are the different components composing a work plan. I have set up or listed for you a series of tips for you to consider when you will be drafting your outputs. So please keep in mind that one output should be prepared, defined per work package as a minimum. So we expect at least one output per work package in your work plan. Please be sure that you are not forgetting any end products of your product, that you are capturing through the output all the end products developed or delivered by your projects. So you can go beyond one output per work package. You can develop several outputs in your work packages. Please make sure that the outputs you are capturing, you are delivering, are aligned with the overall project ambition, that they are relevant and of sufficient scale to achieve the expected result and to benefit to your target groups. Please also pay attention to the fact that you need to be careful when you are defining your output, that the indicator selected is aligned with your description of the output and with your target value. So please make sure that you are consistent in the information you are delivering in your application form around the outputs. So please be sure that everything is matching between the title, the description, the target value, and the indicator you are selecting. So the consistency is quite important when you are drafting an output. Then outputs are tangible products, as I said before, but what might be an output in one project could be a deliverable, an intermediary product in another. So it's quite important to ask yourself that, okay, does the product you would like to highlight as an output has a direct effect or not on the specific objective you would like to reach? If this is not the case, you are more likely to have in front of you an intermediary step, what we call a deliverable. So it's quite important to ask yourself and to evaluate some of the quality, the essence of the product you would like to highlight. Is it one of the main products of your activities? In that case, it's an output. If it's only one step in one bigger story, in a bigger picture, it's only a deliverable, an intermediate step, and there is no need to highlight this element as an output. So it's quite important to make this distinction and to take a step back when you are preparing your application form. So, to sum up, to recap what we have seen together so far, we have prepared a last exercise, and I will ask you to move again on Slido. So I guess you know by heart the path or to reach it. So I will give you a few minutes to read what is in front of you. So you will have 3 questions again, and in each of them we will ask you to identify among the 6 elements available as an answer what is an output. That's the content of the first question. What is a result? That's the content of the second question. And what is a specific objective? So again, these proposals are coming from the project we are using from the beginning of this lab. And we are asking you to assess the situation and to identify what is an output, what is a result, and what is a specific objective. So I give you a few minutes to think about what is an output. Is it the option 1, 2, 3? Maybe the option 4 could be an output. Think about it, assess the situation. Okay, maybe you have made your decision for the first question, so I invite you to move to the next one. So it's exactly the same options you have in front of you. So I can give you one tip. You should not answer the same answer between the questions because we are looking for different products here or different outcomes from your project or different items. And you can move to the third question. Same story. You have also different elements in front of you. I think now you are ready to see the different answers. Okay, so among these 6 options, the first one was an output. So procurement guidelines dealing with a sustainable food topic. Here it's really a direct product stemming from the activities of the project we have presented you so far. So this is really a key tangible element which will be triggering a change, hopefully, in the local context of the project. The option 3 was a result, because if you recall what Kathleen told you, you can see at the beginning this comparative adjective highlighting a change, a desired change in your local context. The specific objective was the answer 6, because you can recognize the verb starting it at the beginning, and it's really exposing what is the ambition, one of the ambition of your project. When it comes to the 3 remaining elements, the option 2, 4, and 5, here it's a mix of different elements of a work plan, so activities, deliverables, intermediary steps. So I invite you to join us next week to learn more about these different items. You will learn more about the content and what are their role, in the framework of a work plan. So join us next week to learn more about these 3 components. I've talked a lot, so maybe it's time for you to ask a question if something is unclear.
Thank you, Nicolas, for your presentation. And indeed, we do have a little bit of questions already popping up in our Q&As.
Mm-hmm.
So the first question for you is whether there is a maximum number of outputs per work package.
So there is no maximum number, but we ask you to be, in a way, proportionate, to be reasonable in the number of outputs you will be delivering. So we prefer to have quality versus quantity, in a way. So just make sure to capture the main end products of your project. Don't try to cover and to grab everything and to put everything in your list of outputs. It's not valuable. We prefer to focus on the main elements stemming from your activities. So you have to, when you will be drafting your application form, to take a step back and to really assess internally what are the main elements you would like to highlight at this level. So please keep in mind that we prefer quality versus quantity.
Thank you, Nico, for your answer. Next question from Ceci is whether a new building created for the project can be an output.
In that case, I would say this new building created, it's more an investment, the result of some activities. What you will be capturing as an output, it's the building, but also the services related to this building. So it's more a package. So we want to see or to grasp as an output, not the building itself, but also the service related to this building. What would be offered, for instance, to the end user? What would be the exact benefit? We should somehow see it, and a sole building is not bringing a direct impact in your territory. The output should also cover the service related to this building. So you should make this a bit distinction between what would be most probably an investment in the framework of your project and what would be an output.
Thank you for your answer. Another question from Timia is whether output indicators are different from result indicators.
Yes, they are not capturing the same element of your project. So a result indicator is capturing a change, so something, an impact in your territory. When it comes to an output, we are here measuring somewhat a product, so it's a bit different. What we try to grasp, to capture in the framework of your application form. So the matrix of indicators you will see in our application pack will be different between the result indicators and the output indicators. So please make sure to read this document carefully, and you will certainly see the difference of nature between these 2 components of the intervention logic.
Another question on output indicators is whether applicants need one output indicator for each output.
Yes, it's quite important, and you won't have so much choice when you will be filling in your application form, because our system will invite you or force you to select one and only one indicator per output. So you won't have so much room for maneuver in this case. So one output will be linked to one output indicator. Sorry.
Thank you. There's another question. So an output is linked to a work package, and a deliverable is linked to a task in a work package. Or is it an output the most important deliverable?
Okay, so there are different notions here, and I'm starting to talk about the next session, but okay, let's try to find a very basic example to illustrate a bit what is a deliverable and what is an output. So I will be talking to my nephew, if you want. So an output, you have a project, your objective is to make a cake for your friend. The output will be the cake itself. The activities will be all the steps for the preparation of the cake. And the deliverables will be, for instance, one activity will lead to the delivery of the dough for the cake. So this is one deliverable. A second deliverable would be the foods you will be preparing for baking the cake. So that's the second deliverable. And the third deliverable would be, okay, you will make an analysis of maybe which spices you would like to use, if you want to add cinnamon and so on. So this analysis will be a third deliverable. But these three deliverables will lead to the main output. It's a cake itself. So I hope you can see the different steps leading to the main product, the cake. And the deliverables are some of the intermediary steps leading to baking the cake, which will be delicious, I'm sure.
Okay. I don't think we have any more questions at the moment. Okay. So maybe we wait for one more second.
Okay.
Okay, I see one more question. Mm-hmm. Can the design of a new training course be an output?
So, can the design of a new training
course be an output?
Excellent question. So it's quite hard to assess the situation without knowing the context in which your project will be developed. So, in principle, this type of product could be considered as an output, but without knowing more the context, what are the overall objective and your specific objective, I cannot say a full green light because I need to learn more about your project, what would be the activities leading to the delivery of this output. So, in principle, this type of product could be an output, but I need further information to properly assess the situation. So, sorry if it's not a clear answer, but it's really, every project has its own story. It's really case by case. We can evaluate if it's an output or not. So, yes, that's what I can say so far, let's say.
Thank you, Nico. There's one more question from Paula. She doesn't understand whether the output indicators are predefined.
So we have a set of indicators predefined. So they are available in our application pack. So this pack is available on our website. So yes, in our term of reference, we have a long list of predefined indicators. But when you will be reading this document, maybe these predefined indicators are not covering all the dimensions of your projects because as you may have been aware, we have 6 topics in this code, so we have a broad range of potential topics to be addressed. So if you think that the predefined list of indicators is not fully satisfactory, it's not making you in the position of capturing all the dimensions of your project, you have the possibility to create your own indicators. So when you will be filling in your application form, you will have a drop-down menu with the predefined indicators, and at the very end of this drop-down menu, you will have an extra option allowing you to create your own indicators. It will be the option Other in your application form, and you will see directly the system will allow you to write down directly your own indicators. So you have the choice, the possibility to add your own indicators on top of what has been predefined.
Thank you, Nico. And maybe if you can repeat again, is it maximum 1 indicator per output?
Yes, you don't have any choice. In the system, really, when you will be filling in your application form, you will have a specific field dedicated to the output, and there's going to be one drop-down menu. And this drop-down menu, it's a name output indicator. So you won't have any surprise. You will see the full list of predefined indicators. You will have to pick up only one, and then that's it. You cannot add a series of different indicators for one output. So one output, one output indicator. You cannot be more creative. We are quite strict on this.
Thank you, Nico, for your answer. At the moment, I don't see any more questions about the intervention logic, but there is one question where applicants can find the form to fill out the proposal. So I guess where you can find the application form.
Okay. It's quite an important step. So there is only one way to apply in our call for proposal. It's to go on our we have a platform dedicated to collect all the application form. It's called EY Connect. So when you go on our website, on the page dedicated to the code, you will see the link towards this platform. And that would be the only way and the only space where you can feed in your application form. So only submit your application form via this platform. If you don't find the link, please don't hesitate to drop us a line to our mailbox, and we will send you directly the link afterwards. Should you wish to work offline and to share some documents internally, we have a courtesy document to support applicants to draft the application form. It's available in the application pack, but please keep in mind that we will only accept application forms submitted via our platform EY Connect. And you will find the link on our webpage, on the page dedicated to the fourth call for proposal.
Thank you, Nico, for your answer. Let's take one more question and then we will move on with the agenda. So the question is, does the main urban authority need to be the owner of the output?
Let's say most of the time that's the case, but in some, let's say, it really depends on the circumstance and in which way the project is operating and how the end product of your project is developed. In some cases, it could be one of the delivery partner owning the end product developed by your project, the innovative solution. But it should be quite clear who will be responsible, who will be owning the end product, and you will have to define this kind of rules if you are approved in a specific document called partnership agreement. So it will be establishing the rules and the way you will be cooperating within your partnership, and you will have some options or some spaces to define, okay, who will be the owner of the solution at the end of the project, who will be in charge of, for instance, maintaining the project after the end of the project implementation. So this has to be discussed at the beginning of the project with your consortium, and you have to be clear and by experience to define clearly the rule from the day one of your project to see who will be in charge and owning the end product of your project at the end, after the end of the project implementation.
Thank you, Nico, for your answer. And let's move on with our agenda. I will let you continue with your presentation.
Yes, so we're aware that you are currently laying the foundation of your project. And, oops, I will move to the right slide, yes. But you should still also anticipate what will happen the day after the end of your project. So we ask you to protect yourself after the end of the implementation of your project. So what will be the destiny of your innovative solution? What will be the destiny of your product, end products, your outputs? So it's quite important to answer this question in your application form, because you may recognize this slide presented by Kathleen a few minutes ago, because this will be part of the assessment of your proposal. And you can see at the bottom of this page that one of the sub-criterion, which will be used by our evaluators, will be directly addressing the post-project durability. So please keep in mind this dimension when you are developing your project. It's quite important to anticipate this. But how to answer this question of durability? It's quite a broad topic. So you have 3 fields in the application form to answer this. And first you will have to define and to see how does your project align with the existing priorities in your local context. So you will have to work to assess the situation locally and to define, to show, to demonstrate how your innovative solutions support existing local strategy and policies. So you have to position yourself in your local context, in these local strategies and policies, but you have also to anticipate how you will be ensuring the long-term sustainability of your solution through the policy alignment. You have to explain why your solution will be continued after the project ends. You will have to embed your solution within the strategic framework currently in place and describe how your solution will somehow complement existing practices, existing initiatives. So you have to be a bit strategic and see how your solution will integrate the local context and the existing local strategies and policies. On top of this, we also invite you to anticipate and to answer the following question. How do you intend to sustain the proposed solution after the project ends? Here we ask you to take a step back and to demonstrate how the solution you would be developing would be made self-sufficient after the project ends. You would have to define or to anticipate who would be the owner of the solution. So that's a link to the last question we got a few minutes ago. but also to explain or to anticipate who will be maintaining the solution you will be developing, what would be the funding arrangements. You should clarify what would be the future use of the project solution or for your investment, to identify the organization responsible for the continued implementation, and to see or to anticipate how somehow the target groups of your solution will be still using the project solution after the end of your project. So what we try to somehow collect from your side is to see that we are not financing not only a one-shot project delivering during 2 years, but the day after nothing is going on. We really expect from your side to anticipate the day after, to really tell us and show us that there's going to be a long-standing impact in your territory. And also to do that, we have a third question in the application form. Here we also ask you to anticipate, to see what would be the potential for scaling up the proposed solution you would be delivering in your project. So we ask you to describe in your application form the potential for scaling up, what could be the potential replication areas in terms of geography, but also in terms of topic. Maybe if you can replicate or integrate your solution in another field of action of your municipality. We ask you to describe, to anticipate what could be the plans for scaling up your solution, what could be, let's say, the organizational aspects, which will ensure that you are ready to move in towards this direction, and what could be the resource you could use to scaling up your solution. You should also explain us or try to anticipate how you will make the best use of your own project experience, and what would be the lesson learned from the implementation of your project, and what you can reuse in another context in your local level for scaling up the proposed solution you will be developing during the project implementation. So I hope you have a bit more clarity on what we expect from your side at this stage to explain us what would be the durability of your project solution. So really try to, first, it's quite understandable to focus on your own project, on your own intervention logic, to explain us what you will be delivering during the next 2 years of implementation, but also anticipate what will happen the day after, what will happen after the end of your project. So don't underestimate this dimension and don't overlook this task, because it will be subject also to evaluation in the framework of this call. So good luck for addressing this dimension. But if I'm not wrong, I think Sophia, a guest, is coming. A special guest is coming to join us, no?
We have 2 more minutes for some questions.
Oh, I love questions.
You love questions because they started popping up again. Okay. So first of all, we have a Slido for the Q&A. You can scan the QR code, and also you can go on slido.com using hashtag EOYLab2. So that's the code to enter. So if you have any last minute questions, this is the time to answer, to ask them. So one more question is, so someone is asking that they know that the maximum total budget is 2.5 million projects, 2.5 million per project, and what then would be the minimum?
€1 maybe? No. There is no minimum as such, but what you have to think about is to develop a proposal and to set up a budget which is proportionate to your activities, to the outputs you plan to develop. So there is no magical figure, but be somewhat consistent in the budget you plan to ask for, and it should be really consistent with the activities you plan to develop and to run. So let's say be realistic, be proportionate, and try to be as close as possible to the reality and be realistic in a way.
Kind of like linked to this question is whether you can confirm that projects aren't limited to 2.5 million and can present a higher budget.
No, that's a maximum. So the co-financing would be, you will get a 2 million ERDF budget, and we cannot go above this threshold. So that's the maximum ERDF budget you can get. So no, you cannot expand until, I don't know, crazy sums of money. Your budget, so it's really, you have to stick to this €2 million of ERDF funds, so 2.5 million total budget.
Mm-hmm. So there is another question linked to other EU-funded projects. And the question from Francesca is whether it is possible to develop a project that includes actions to be implemented on infrastructures currently being regenerated through other EU funds.
That's an excellent question. What you have to be careful, I think, in this context is to avoid double funding. So you have to clearly define in your application form activities which will be directly addressed by the EUI project, and to make a clear distinction also for audit purpose of what will be co-financed by our initiative and what is co-financed by other programs or funds. So I think it's a matter of clearly presenting in your application form. So you were referring to infrastructure, if I'm not wrong. So there's going to be most probably an investment fish you will be developing. Okay, we'll learn more about it next week in our next lab, but you will have some fields where you would have to describe clearly what would be the operation expected to be run in the framework of the EY project. So my advice would be, okay, be clear on what should be co-financed by our initiative and what should be co-financed by any other funds, and be clear in the message you will pass in your description in the application form, so that there is no room for doubt, because otherwise it could be subject to question mark in our eyes, and it could have an impact also on the assessment of your proposal. So be clear in the way you will be presenting this specific case in your application form.
Thank you, Nico, for your answer. And it's good that you mentioned our next thematic lab. It is going to be the fourth and the very last thematic lab. And we will be talking more about financing and about the budget. So at the moment, I see that there are no more questions, and I think it is time to stop our Q&A. And it is the moment of suspense. So who is going to be our special guest? I hope you have anticipated who this special guest might be. And I would like to welcome Eilish O'Loughlin, the head of Capacity Building Unit, and she has a very special message for us. Hello, Eilish.
Hello, Sophia. Thank you so much for having me here. I think we have how many, 200 people, or how many people did we have signed up for today's webinar?
About 250
About
people.
250 people. And how many of these could potentially take home an Innovative Actions grant?
About 250 people?
250 people, no.
30.
30 people. So whether you're among the 30 that might be successful in this call, or whether you're in the countless others that have an innovative idea, you're looking for funding, I have a message for you. And that message is that with the capacity building offer, we have a specific activity called the peer review. And the peer review is a perfect tool to allow you to integrate innovative approaches into an integrated urban strategy. So what is an integrated urban strategy? An integrated urban strategy in our world is one that is funded through the European Regional Development Fund. Article 11 of that regulation points out that there are specific strategies that we call Article 11 strategies. And with the peer review, we are trying to improve the design and implementation of those integrated urban strategies. And for those of you watching today, you obviously have an innovative idea, you're looking for funds. Whether you are selected for this call, this Innovative Actions call or not, the peer review can be an essential tool to help you reach your goals. Why, you might ask? Well, if you will be successful in obtaining one of these grants, as we heard from Nicolas, you will have the mission ahead of you to secure the destiny of your investment. How are you going to make sure that your innovative project has a legacy in the policy framework? How are you going to work with your stakeholders, with your colleagues across departments, working with citizens to embed this innovation so that your city can enjoy that for many years to come, so that it won't be a project forgotten? So the peer review is a perfect tool to facilitate this, because in a peer review, EUI can mobilize a team of 5 other cities who will work with you to come up with recommendations on how to improve your strategic framework. So they can discuss with you your Innovative Actions project and determine together a set of actions you can take to ensure that it's embedded into your strategic framework. Maybe, on the other hand, you will not be successful in getting one of these very desired grants, and then the question becomes, what other financial solutions have cities found to ensure that they can fund these types of projects? So whether you're in the camp that will be having a project or not, the peer review is really an interesting tool for you. The peer review call has opened yesterday, so 11th of March until 22nd of April, we're accepting applications from cities. There are two different roles that you can play as part of a peer review. If you're a city that owns one of these integrated urban strategies, an Article 11 city, as we say, you can apply in the role of city under review. This means that you will define 3 guiding questions related to your strategy. One of them could be, for instance, how to scale up our innovative approach through our integrated urban strategy and how to secure a long-term strategic approach. Or you could, for instance, focus on how to mobilize other types of funding to ensure that our innovative ideas are being realized. So there are many different options in terms of the questions that can be answered through a peer review. You'd be working, as I said, with this team of other EU cities and also EUI experts to support you in that process. You can also benefit from 1 year of expertise after the peer review takes place to help you implement those recommendations. So the city under review is the main beneficiary. We also accept applications from peer reviewers. These are the other EU cities that are bringing their expertise, their solutions to help the cities under review solve those questions that they will define in their application form. It's very simple to apply. For the role of peer reviewer, you simply need to describe the thematic expertise that you can bring to help this process. And in terms of the process itself, the peer review consists of a 2-day event, which is well prepared over about 3 to 4 months. And in that 2-day event, the group of cities will go question by question and define recommendations and solutions for the cities under review. This process is supported with a very interesting tool. It's called the Self-Assessment Tool for Sustainable Urban Development Strategies. And this will allow you to identify precisely where you could improve in developing an integrated approach. So you've heard from me that the call is opening. You have until the 22nd of April to apply. We discussed that whether you will end up joining the community of Innovative Action cities or not, there's something for you to gain from this. I will mention that we've already had some cities that have had Innovative Actions projects, and they've also been cities under review. For instance, Varaždin in Croatia, Stalowa Wola in Poland, and also Coimbra in Portugal. So if you want to be part of this group of front-running cities that are really making the most out of EUI opportunities, please, I encourage you to get familiar with the peer review call. The best way to do that is to join me again online on the 18th of March at 10 a.m. We will spend the morning together discussing what happens in a peer review, how to apply. It's easier than you think, why cities have found it to be an invaluable support, and what you practically need to prepare to submit your application. I think I can leave it there for now, Sophia. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I'll hand you back the floor. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. I also want to thank my colleagues for presenting and supporting me throughout the session. And I want to thank you for joining this session with us, joining the second thematic lab. So a reminder that this thematic lab was recorded and will be posted online on our website and on our YouTube channel. So maybe I can also guide you throughout our applicant support. We still have 2 more online webinars. All of them are on Thursday. They run throughout the end of March, same time at 10:30. In April, we will start our Q&A sessions, and please note that our one-to-one consultations are up and running. You can find the booking link on our website. We also have national urban contact points events, so they're also running throughout March. Please check the dates, and the invitations links are also posted on our website. So they're already less than last week. And then finally, I also want to ask you to answer and give us feedback on today's session. You can do that through Slido, rate how we did today and whether we answered all of your questions. If more questions pop up, you can email us on Innovative Actions. We monitor daily your questions. Also, after the end of the session, we check all of the Slido questions and frequently update the frequently asked questions. Please like and subscribe, follow us on social media, register to our newsletter, and I wish you all a good day, and hopefully I'll see you next week for our next thematic lab.